Welcome to the Home Repairs Academy. Today we're going to fix a running toilet. We're going to use two different methods. One is going to be using a fill valve replacement, and the other is going to be replacing the flapper, which I'll show you later. You may also need a large pliers because there's a nut that's pretty large. It might be a little hard to do with just your hands. All right, let's get to it. You know that sound where it just sounds like water's running, but you don't see any leaks anywhere? Usually it's the flapper inside the bowl. So we're going to take a look at it. So first we're going to open up the top of the bowl. And then if you come and look down in here, you'll see that red piece at the bottom. That's called the flapper. Basically, when you lift the lever when you flush the toilet, it allows water into the bowl to flush the toilet. Sometimes as they get old, they tend to leak a little. Take a couple pictures of it, and then go to your local Home Depot or Lowe's. They'll usually have 3 or 4 different kinds of flappers, and you want to try to match up as best you can to what you currently have. So I found this one. It's a universal flapper that seems like it'll do the job. So I'm going to take the old flapper out. If you look down in there, it's pretty easy. It just kind of comes right off of this little plastic piece, and then you can lift it right up. And it connects to the rod that is attached to the flush lever by just a little clip. Looks like I picked a pretty good match. It's basically identical to what was in there. But I'm going to double check the length of the chain just to make sure when I connect it, it should work right. Part of the chain that connects to the flush arm is up top. I'll kind of look to see. Now it looks like you can see if I hold them up, the length of chain coming down to my new flapper is longer than my old flapper. So I'm just going to shorten it. I did that previously by about 5 links. So I'm going to shorten the new chain to the same length. And you do that simply by disconnecting the little metal piece at the end, count down the number of links, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just reconnect it on there. So now I have, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 links, and I'm connected right above that. First, I'm going to reconnect the flapper itself onto the plastic part in the bottom of the bowl, and it just clips on both sides. And you know you've done correctly if you kind of pull it up and down, and it seems like it moves smoothly. And now I'm going to connect the end to the flushing rod. So what you want to do now is test to make sure that when you flush the handle, it lifts the flapper. So you flush the handle, the flapper goes up. When you let go, it should all the way reseat itself. I see that there's not much slack in here, so I'm not quite sure if it's seated all the way down. It looks like it, but we'll have to wait a moment till the toilet fills with water. So now the tank has filled with water, and we're looking to see if the flapper is leaking. And I don't think the flapper is leaking at all any longer, but what's happening, you can see the tank is continuing to try to fill, so it's still running. The other issue that it could be is the fill valve, which is this part located here. Normally, once this fills with water, this little float rises to a certain level and shuts off the valve. And then you wouldn't have any water coming out of here any longer. In this instance, no matter what I do, adjusting this or pushing up and down on the valve, I can't get it to stop the flow of water. So I believe there's something wrong in the valve. So to replace the valve, once again, we'll take a couple of photos, go to the local hardware store. I went to Home Depot, and I found a valve that is identical to the one that's in there. Usually on the wall behind the toilet, you'll see there's a valve, and that feeds the water to the toilet. So you can turn off the valve by turning it clockwise, and now you know there's no more water going to the toilet. And then you're going to want to flush it until the water drains out of the tank. Okay, not all the water will drain, but most of it will. Now I'm going to remove the water line connecting the water from the wall to the bottom of the valve. It's located right below the valve. You're going to want to have either a bucket or a little Tupperware container there to catch some of the water that's still in the tank. In order to remove the valve, you're going to want to remove the nut from the bottom of the tank. Sometimes it's a little difficult with your fingers. It's a rather large nut, so you may need to use a pair of pliers. I was able to loosen it with the pliers. Now I'll hold the fill valve inside the tank and loosen the nut the rest of the way by hand. Once you remove the valve, you'll need to pull off the flexible hose so you can take a look at the restrictor that's on the valve. In this case, it's blue. You'll want to stay with the same color that you've had in the tank previously. You can see on the new valve, I also have the blue restrictor. The next thing that you need to do is make sure the height of the new valve is the same as the old. The new valve is adjustable, so we just have to increase the height to match the old one. So I'll set them side by side, and to increase the height, you have to turn the shaft until you feel the height is the same. Looks like I have a little bit more to go. Once you have the height correct, you'll want to place the new valve in the tank. Then underneath the tank, you'll want to fasten it with the new nut that came with the valve. Once I have it finger tight, I'll give it a slight turn with the pliers just to make sure it won't loosen itself over time. Once that's firmly in place, you can reattach the water line. Now we'll put the flexible tube on the new valve. It just pushes over the little blue restrictor on the top of the valve, and then it has a clip that will keep it flowing inside of the PVC pipe. And now we'll turn the water back on. And you'll see the water will be filling inside the tube and on the bottom of the tank simultaneously. You'll want to make sure it's not leaking anywhere at the bottom of the tank where you made your connection. I don't feel like there's any leak, but I'll take some paper towels and dry it really well and check it again in a little while just to make sure. So it looks like in this case, it was probably the fill valve. Although since we replaced the flapper first, that could have been a problem as well. The fill valve was $20 at Home Depot. The flapper was $5. Not really a bad idea just to replace both at the same time anyway, and it's much cheaper than an $80 call to a plumber. Just going to replace the lid back on the tank, and that's all for today. Thanks for watching.